Hi, my name is Jason Reed, and I want to say a couple things about my book, The Politics of Transindividuality. First thing I should say, since I'm here to talk about historical materialism series with Haymarket Books, is this is not the Haymarket Books edition. This is the Brill edition. I don't have a copy of the Haymarket one. I gave my last paperback away, but I'll buy some more, don't worry. But I want to say that these books, when they come out from Brill, are quite expensive, and everyone always complains when you post about them on Facebook or whatever, and Haymarket Books makes those same books available for quite cheap and often has sales. My first plug. But I want to say more about the book itself, and it's kind of difficult to talk about one's own book, especially do it in a short amount of time. So I thought, rather than try to sum up the conclusions, I want to say something about the central provocation or problem that I was dealing with. And as is often the case, for me at least, and I think for a lot of people, the provocation comes from a passage in Marx. It's from the 1857 introduction that's in the Grundrisse, where Marx writes, and I quote, "Only in the 18th century, in civil society, do the various forms of social connectedness confront the individual as a mere means towards his private purposes, as external necessity. But the epoch which produces this standpoint, that of the isolated individual, is also precisely that of the hitherto most developed social relations. The human being is in the most literal sense a political animal, not merely a gregarious animal, but an animal which can individuate itself only in the midst of society. Production by an isolated individual outside of society is as much of an absurdity as is the development of language without individuals living together and talking to each other." And this passage is very rich and provocative. I was obsessed with it for a long period of time. And I think you can read three different problems or provocations from it. First, as a kind of critical, polemical problem, it seems even more true today, right? That an individual and individuality is kind of the watchword of all sorts of ideologies, political and economic, from the kind of common sense way most people talk about themselves to various forms of neoliberalism and so on. So it seems even increasingly true. Second, and kind of opposed to that, Marx offers some very suggestive lines towards a kind of ontology of social relations. Although, of course, Marx would never be interested in espousing or developing that ontology. It's a provocation that kind of exceeds the boundaries of his own texts. And then third, bringing the polemic and the provocation together, there's a suggestion, it seems to me, that one could critically understand the various ways in which particular social relations produce their own appearances, or their own subjectivities, including those that would seem to efface and obscure their own social connectedness, as a kind of camera obscura, as Marx wrote about ideology. And to explore all three of these dimensions, the polemic, the philosophical provocation, and the critical sort of analysis, I turn to the concept of transindividuality, most famously developed by Gilbert Simondon, who I look at, but I'm very interested in the way in which the concept sort of exceeds one particular philosophical articulation and is taken up by people like Etienne Balibar, Paulo Virno, etc., and also can be used to read through the history of philosophy, Marx, Hegel, and Spinoza, as different figurations of this way of thinking the constitutive nature of social relations. And that is what I try to do in The Politics of Transindividuality. So I'm hoping you're interested in the book and hoping you support the Historical Materialism book series through Haymarket Books. Thanks.